6:02 right now. If you have a flight in the coming days and you don't have a real ID, it is now too late to get one before your flight. Katu's Joe English is live at PDX this morning with what's happening now. The day we thought would never come 20 years later. Joe, people were a little worried about this. I was one of those people worried, but you can still fly without the real ID.
Yes, TSA is going to give people some slack, at least for today. We don't know how long that's going to last, but I want to show you what it looks like at PDX right now. Now, here's what we've seen throughout the morning. It looks like it's really backed up, but I don't think that's because of the real ID rule. We've seen the floor get... We have seen the floor fill up like this, empty out, fill up again, empty out. So I think that's just regular timing of flights. So it looks like security is getting people through. But today, yeah, is the enforcement deadline for the new real ID requirement at airports across the country. Now, if you don't have a real ID or a passport or a military ID, it may take you more time to get through security. So TSA is recommending you give yourself plenty of extra time if that is the case, more than just the recommended 2 hours early. TSA says they won't turn anyone away, at least for today, and they will have staff on hand to direct people through the security process. Now, some airports will have separate lines for people who don't have real ID or other documentation, and it may be inconvenient, but TSA says the security measure is important.
This secretary, this administration, we're really focused on enforcing the law. We really believe, again, that document and identity integrity is important to the safety and the security of our skies.
Now, lines at the DMV have been long as people have been rushing to get their IDs. The Oregon DMV issued tens of thousands of real IDs in the past week, averaging 45 to 50,000 a week. And it takes a few weeks for those IDs to come in the mail. So if you don't have a flight anytime soon, you might want to consider waiting until that rush dies down a bit. Now, TSA estimates that about 80% of passengers already have their real IDs, so they're not expecting any inconveniences or any excessive wait times at all. At PDX, Joe English, K2 News.
Oh, man, I'm one of those slackers. I have a flight tomorrow. I'm going to have to dig out my passport. Joe, let's talk about real ID. The fact that it's not just about getting on a plane, right? We need it to get to some other places.
Right, that's a good point, because you may just want to get one anyway. You'll need it to get into any federal building, onto a military base, even into a nuclear power plant if you happen to be going there. But maybe you end up needing to go to federal court for some reason. You won't be able to do that if you don't have that real ID, so probably something you want to take care of anyway. But you don't have to have one if you don't want to get one or don't think you will need one. It's not a requirement. Angelica?
Right, yeah, really good heads up there, Joe. Thank you.
If you don't have a real ID ahead of tomorrow's deadline, a little bit of good news for you.
The Department of Homeland Security says you can still fly with whatever ID you do have.
If it's not compliant, they may be diverted to a different line, have an extra step, but people will be allowed to fly. We will make sure that it is as seamless as possible and that travelers will get to stay on their intended itinerary, but we are telling people that this law will be enforced.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says the government is giving travelers some leeway for now. K2's Joe English stopped by the Beaverton DMV to find out what last-minute things you need to know.
As well as how you can get around the long wait times. Listen to this.
Well, this may be one of the shorter long lines at the Beaverton DMV. DMV says it issued 25,000 new real IDs last week alone. It may seem like a daunting task, I know, but once you get through those doors, they have a lot of tips and suggestions and a lot of people in there to help you get through it.
Now serving S473 of counter 4.
We've had to bring in some temporary workers. We've had even staff from our DMV headquarters are volunteering to give up their day job and come over here and help out.
If you try to fly, get into a federal building or onto a military base, starting Wednesday, you won't be able to do that without a real ID or another form of ID that meets federal security standards, like a passport or military ID. But even if you're getting your real ID now, it won't show up in the mail for 3 weeks, and the TSA won't accept the temporary one. TSA says it will work with people who don't have a real ID, but checking in will likely take much longer, and you could miss your flight. Those in line at the DMV that we talked to have been pretty happy with the process.
Yeah, real easy. And actually, I even saw my best friend, that Jim Fisher Volvo, was in here getting his ID. Okay. So you'll be surprised. You might see someone you know, and it might make the visitation a little more inspiring.
DMV says the best way to avoid aggravation is to bring the necessary documentation you need with you. Both DMV and TSA have that information on their websites. And if you can, book an appointment.
Once you get your Real ID, you can renew it online. So the first time you get it, you have to come in person and present all the different documentation. But once you have it, you'll be able to renew it, and it'll be super easy.
You'll still be able to get a Real ID after Wednesday, but you don't have to get one. It's not required. As of Monday morning, according to DMV, 38% of Oregonians have chosen to get a Real ID. 46% have chosen to get a standard license. In Beaverton, Joe English, K2 News.
And by the way, we're told wait times can be as much as 5 hours.
And you don't have to go to the DMV office in the city or town you live in. It might be worth the drive to a nearby town where the office isn't so busy.